Hello and welcome to Sky Career Talks, here where we get to discuss why communicating and connecting with Rutgers alumni is so important. Today we will be learning about Jen Bigioni, who graduated in 1992 with a BA in Political Science with a French and Psychology minor at Rutgers University. Her career started as a social studies teacher, and eventually Jen was eager to learn more and went back to Rutgers in 2015 for the MLIS program to become a school librarian. Jen now works as the Educational Media Specialist at Princeton High School. Here we get to learn more about Jen's career journey and where she is today.
Hi, my name is Lane Klimak, and today I'm joined by Jen Bigioni to discuss where Rutgers alumni start their career after college. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jen. How are you?
Oh, all right. And thank you for letting me be here.
Of course. So, to start this interview, could you just give us a brief overview of your career journey?
Sure. I am a 92 graduate of Rutgers College. And from there, I went to grad school for political philosophy, thinking that I wanted to be a professor. And when I was there, I recognized that that probably wasn't for me. And I decided to do some children's advocacy. And while I was studying for my LSATs, I substitute taught and came home complaining about studying for LSATs and loving everything I was doing while I was substitute teaching. So my mom said, maybe you want to be a teacher. And so I did. For 19 years, I was a social studies teacher. I was alternate route. And while I was teaching and doing some curriculum writing, the Common Core got released. And I realized at that point that teachers were going to have to put the learning in student hands, and there was going to be a lot of research involved and projects involved. And that's the kind of teacher I already was. And I said, how can I help all of my colleagues to make this switch? And it occurred to me that if I were the librarian, I would be in the center of it all. So, without even talking to my husband, I went to my human resources director and was like, I think I need to do this. And he's like, wow, that sounds really great. Let's figure out how we can get you in the role. And it took a year. But I called up Rutgers and I'm like, I know your applications were due months ago, but I think I need to start like in a few weeks. Is that okay? And they let me know the Friday before Labor Day weekend when classes were starting Tuesday that indeed I'd gotten into the program. And so on a whirlwind, two small kids, I started back at grad school. And the year later, I was able to get an emergency certification to be the librarian. And 2 years after that, I got my master's and I have now been, this is my 10th year in the school librarian role, and it's been amazing.
That's super exciting and definitely a story that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. Things come and go and change.
Mhm.
So, in your experience being a librarian for the last 10 years, what type of technical or interpersonal skills do you think students need to start their careers?
I think interpersonal skills are underrated. You have to be great at being able to navigate lots of different constituencies because you have your students that you're obviously constantly with. You have the teachers that you want to be able to work alongside and sometimes teach and sometimes, just be there as support for them. I think you're going to have assistants, either they're going to be paid or they're going to be parent or community members who are going to come in, and you need to be able to deal with them. You're going to need to handle the board and the administration when it comes to proper funding, when it comes to other resources that you need, or convincing them of the need for you to do some sort of professional development for skills that you're seeing consistently that teachers need to have and don't yet. So you need to be able to navigate all of that and do it in a way where you're leading them, but in a comfortable way that they don't feel like you're coming at them and in any way making them wrong. So it is a delicate balance that you have to strike. And I think technology wise, you are the technology leader in the building. So you need to be able to help everyone and you need to be able to help them from where they are. It was interesting just today, somebody sent me something and they were like, how are these directions for this whole technology thing? And there were assumptions that he made about what people would know, like, in the Finder. And I said, well, you'll have to show them two different ways to get to the Finder, from the pull down and from the magnifying glass. You can't count on that knowledge. So really being able to see where everybody is and be able to support them from where they are with all sorts of things. Chat GPT is huge now. And so having to stay ahead of that with all the different articles and different webinars and be able to figure out what to funnel to your community is also an important thing. So you need to be tech savvy, you need to be tech calm, because when somebody comes to you frazzled, you need to be able to say, come on, let's look at this, and sort of show them universals. You know, so many students don't even know that the little pencil button means like that's edit. No matter where you find that, that's going to be edit. So, you know, you can always edit this screen and edit that dashboard, and people are blown away by that simple thing. And you just have to be excited that they're blown away and that they've now learned it. So I'd say that's what it's all about.
That's great, and I definitely think, teaching people is definitely important of knowing small little things, like you said, icons and drop downs and
Mm-hmm.
things. And you touched on it a little bit, libraries are a little bit different in the sense of networking, but you're speaking with parents and boards and, other teachers and other professionals. So how important is networking for, this industry or just in general of developing one's career?
I think I had it slightly easier because I was already in this building. So this
Mhm.
is my 30th year in the building. And so I already knew the administration. I was able to feel comfortable going to my human resources head and saying, like, this is my dream. Let's figure out how to make it happen. And so in that way, I didn't have to get myself into the job the same way that other people might. So I think in certain ways, you have to do the same thing. You have to be able to say, like, I'll substitute teach in that district because that's where I want to work. And I think that there might be an opening. You might want to volunteer at the library to help them. You know, librarians are often strung, thin with all the different things that they need to do. And putting books back on the shelf isn't the top priority. So maybe you could be there to do that. So there are ways that you can kind of work your way into a school or to a district, so that you're a familiar face and people start counting on you, because that can oftentimes be your way in versus, cold, responding to a posting. So I think in that way it's important. Then of course there are the professional organizations, and you might meet somebody who says, like, I'm heading into my last year, and you're like, oh cool, let me see. And so, you're meeting up with them at AASL or at, ALA, and those are important things as well. And just staying abreast of all of the newest trends, and where you're going to get your books, and all of those professional groups that you can belong to and follow on social media are all truly important.
So you touched on, being a part of groups, and I think that's super important. So do you have any tips or recommendations you would advise to students who are starting their career, maybe suggesting types of groups like that? Were you involved in any during college? What was your experience like with that? And just tips in general for, people going through it.
I think it's crucial, honestly. So there are student rates for all of the different professional organizations, and I think it's important to be able to belong to them. There's a lot of great webinars that they put out, and as members, they're either greatly reduced or totally free. And if you can't make the exact time, you can always watch the recording. And I think it's a great way of showing that interest. If you can make it to one of the state-run or even the national organizations, it's amazing. You get so rejuvenated going to one of them. So I think that's very important. But just being able to start seeing what your future colleagues are doing. If you go to NJASL, being able to meet the librarians from all over the state who are all school librarians, and just getting in there is crucial. It really is. And yes, I had the fortunate I was fortunate in that I was already working here, and my district did believe in paying for those memberships for me. So I never was on a student rate. I immediately was the full professional rate, and it was supported because they themselves see the value. I would say there's also some outside the box memberships you might want. So like I'm also a member of ASCD, which is geared toward school supervisors. To be able to get that leadership perspective might be something that you want as well.
That's great, and I think it's very informative for students to know what types of activities that they can join and groups that are out there because sometimes it's not always presented to us. So,
Mhm.
lastly, could you just describe your job for us in 3 words?
Um, One thing that's it's dynamic. One of my kids said to me today, like, "Oh, well, what's on your day?" And I'm like, "Well, I have this one thing scheduled, and then these are other things I know I need to get done, but you never know what's going to come at me." And sure enough,
Mhm.
as I was walking in the door, a teacher was asking for help and, had to do something on Canvas, so not something I could have counted on. So dynamic, definitely.
Mhm.
Supporting, being the calm voice that's able to get people through when they're panicking or when they're trying to do something new, and having those resources for them and being able to do that. So I describe myself as the helper all the time. And you're integral. You are the hub of the school. Or if you're not when you start, that's your goal, is to be the hub where kids know that they can come to you and you will help them. If you're not the person to help them, you'll know who is the person to help them. And teachers should feel the same, and administration should feel the same. And so I think that's what. So dynamic, supporting, integral, I guess, are those three.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jen. This will definitely be great advice and helpful for students that are starting their career.
I hope so. It's a wonderful one.